Hello, my name is Vicki Hagberg. I'm the Regional Director of Northland Small Business Development Center. We're here today to talk about the 2026 Promise Act Grant Program for Northeastern Minnesota. This program is hosted by the Northland Foundation. The Northland Foundation serves the 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota and all are parts of 5 tribal nations where we share geography. The Northland Small Business Development Center is also hosted by the Northland Foundation. Northland SBDC provides no-cost and confidential consulting services for small businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout northeastern Minnesota. This slide covers some of the different topics that we can help your small business with. And today we're really going to be focusing on how to apply to what the eligibility requirements are for the Promise Act grant program. If you would like to request any of these other services, you can go to northlandsbdc.org and click the red button that says Request for Services. First, an overview. This is a competitive grant program providing grants of up to $50,000 from the state of Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, or DEED. And so something that I think is important to understand is that these program guidelines are set in statute. They were approved by the legislation of 2023 and updated in 2025 and serve a very particular purpose and target audience. The state of Minnesota approved this funding to be sent out in 2 rounds. There was a previous round in 2024, and now this final round for northeastern Minnesota is occurring in early 2026. So the second and final round of this grant opportunity is going to be open from January 19th, 2026 through February 20th, 2026. Any applicants to this program are going to be notified via email of their application status by the end of May 2026. So you'll know for sure if you got a grant or not by that date. First, who can apply? What types of organizations are eligible for the Promise Act grant program? This is a program targeted towards small businesses. Small businesses for this grant program means businesses whose gross revenue, total sales, is less than $750,000 in a year. This program also is for established small businesses. So it's not a good fit for you if you're looking to start up a new business. This is for businesses that have already been established for some period of time. Additionally, some nonprofit organizations can apply to this grant. We'll go through those kind of 2 different scenarios, 2 different eligibility criteria for nonprofit organizations in an upcoming slide. So I know there's a lot of text on this page, but these are the details we'll walk through together on who can apply to the Promise Act grant program. So as I mentioned on the last slide, these are currently operational businesses with annual revenues between $10,000 and $750,000 as documented on your tax returns. We'll go through some of the nuance on this, but generally speaking, we're going to be looking for your 2021 tax returns and 2024 tax returns, and your gross revenue needs to be between $10,000 and $750,000 to be eligible in both of those years. Nonprofit organizations. I mentioned there's a couple of different scenarios where nonprofits can also apply to this program. So if your nonprofit organization earns 30% or more of your revenue on an ongoing basis through non-tax deductible sales or dues in a fee-for-service model, so similar to a business, if your nonprofit is selling tickets to attend a museum or some other kind of institution like that, if you are selling merchandise, and that is a large portion of your revenue as a nonprofit. So if your nonprofit, again, earns 30% or more of your revenue like a business, then you are eligible to apply. There is a new case for this grant round in 2026 where a nonprofit organization that earns between 10 and 30% of their revenue, similar to a business, and also maintains an ongoing customer-facing operation at a permanent physical location where some of those sales take place is also eligible for this round. So again, I'll use this example of a museum. Maybe the museum got quite a bit of grant contributions. That means that their business-like revenue was maybe 15% or something instead of 30% or more. That kind of edge case is what this looks at, right? So you'll be asked in the application the percentage range of your revenue that is earned similar to a business, as well as if you maintain an ongoing customer-facing operation at a permanent physical location. The business, and from now on, I'm going to reference businesses and nonprofits probably just as applicants or as businesses, right? Anyone eligible to apply. They have to have operations located in Aiken, Carlton, Cook, Itasca, Couchiching, Lake, or St. Louis counties. So the 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota, including tribal nations of Bois Forte, Fond du Lac, Grand Portage, Leech Lake District 1, and Mille Lacs District 2. So there needs to be a physical location inside of this area. If you are located elsewhere in Minnesota, you would be eligible for one of their Promise Act grant programs, but this application is only open to businesses in northeastern Minnesota in these 7 counties. Your business needs to be in good standing with the Department of Revenue. If you do have a current tax lien registered, in Minnesota, you need to have an authorized payment plan with the Department of Revenue. So you can apply if you do have a tax lien currently with the state, but you have to have that payment plan in place prior to applying. You need to have an active and up-to-date business registration with the Secretary of State. Sole proprietorships that operate under your own name, so say you have a cleaning business or something, and you don't have a DBA, a doing business as, or assumed name registered for your business, that's okay. That's an exception to needing to have up-to-date business registration with the Secretary of State. But in that case, you still do need to document your business income separately from other sources of income in Schedule C on your tax returns. We'll go through that a little bit more later, but all of these requirements are going to reference back to your taxes, your business taxes or your personal taxes, Schedule C. Your business operation needs to operate from a permanent fixed location in our region in a dedicated space, a commercial, industrial, or agricultural property. If your business operates from your home, that can be okay, but you must have claimed and been allowed the deduction for home office use, right? So in your federal tax returns, you must have claimed the deduction for home office use for your business. And again, we'll go through that a little bit later. Lastly, you can't have received a promise grant in the previous grant round. Business owners are only permitted to receive one promise grant, regardless of the number of rounds they apply to. So how much is the grant that would be awarded if you are successful? It is based on your gross revenue amounts for 2024. So if you had revenue of less than $100,000 in 2024, your grant amount would be $10,000 if successful. Between $100,000 and $350,000, it's a $25,000 grant. Between $350,000 and $750,000, it's a $50,000 grant. These are flat amounts, depending again on the gross revenue reported on your tax returns for 2024. Scoring considerations. So this is what makes an competitive application. This program is not on a first come, first serve basis. Any application received within the application window is going to be treated equally to all others. So there are 3 scoring criteria that will make your application more competitive, more likely to be selected. The first is how much COVID era financial assistance your business received. So if you received more than $10,000 cumulatively from the state under programs like the Minnesota Business Emergency Loan Program, the Minnesota Small Business Relief Grants. Some counties in Minnesota gave grants to small businesses that were state pass-through. There was the Minnesota Movie Theater and Convention Center grant program. If you received $10,000 or more in COVID aid grant funding, you will be less competitive for this grant. So again, the most competitive applications will receive a scoring point for having received less than $10,000 in those types of programs. The Northland Foundation is going to verify this based on state records. So answer to the best of your ability in your application, but it will be verified by the Northland Foundation as they evaluate applications. The second scoring criteria is financial hardship, and this is clearly defined as a business that can demonstrate either a 10% decline in gross revenue, which is total sales, or any decline in net profit between the most recently completed tax year and the previous year. So in this case, we're looking at 2024 taxes compared to 2023. Again, in the following slides, we're going to walk through the application step by step together, and we'll go through where to find those numbers on your tax form so you make sure you have those correct. The third scoring consideration is the date in which your business was established. Businesses established in 2021 or earlier are going to score higher on the grant scoring than businesses established in 2022 or later. So if your business was established in 2022 or 2023, you can still apply to this program, but you will not score as competitively. It is anticipated that the number of applications to this program will exceed the funding available for grants. So just because you apply is not a guarantee that you will get funding. The way it will work is that any businesses that meet all three of these scoring criteria will be awarded grants on a lottery basis first. If there is funding remaining, then businesses that meet two of these scoring criteria would be awarded grants. And likewise, if there's still funding available, after all of the businesses with 2 and 3 of the scoring criteria have been awarded a grant, then they would go to businesses that meet one of these criteria, right? So again, you are most competitive if your business was established in 2021 or earlier, if you received less than $10,000 in COVID-era state aid, and you can show that financial hardship of a 10% decline in gross revenue or any decline in profit, net profit, from 2024 compared to 2023. These grants do not require a match. And so those familiar with grant programs, often a business is required to put in money of their own to what we call match the grant funding. That is not required. The grants do need to be used for eligible expenses, however, things like payroll, rent, mortgages, utility, inventory, any expense that occurs in the regular course of business. Applicants must sign a sub-grant agreement with the Northland Foundation prior to receiving funds. So you'll apply, your application will be scored, it will go into the lottery system. If you're selected, your application will be vetted to make sure that everything is accurate. And then you would sign a sub-grant agreement with the Northland Foundation and receive a grant payment following that. And typically this is going to be considered taxable income as other income for you. So you should be prepared to receive a 1099 for this grant funding. So let's walk through the application questions together step by step. So this application link is on the Northland Foundation's webpage. And the first thing you're going to see are 5 questions that help you make sure that your business is eligible for this Promise Act grant. And so it's going to ask you 5 questions. Was your business in operation in 2021? That is not, again, going to disqualify you. That's a scoring criteria. It'll ask that you are between $10,000 and $750,000, during these tax years. and that you have not received a Promise Act grant previously. So again, first is a pre-screen just to make sure that you're eligible, and that if you're going to spend time doing this application, that you are going to be eligible to receive a grant. The next question, so this is the main part of the application that is, after you get through the pre-screen, these are the real questions, right? The ones that are for the application. The first 7 questions are all related to the contact information and legal name of your business. And so you need to identify, and the applicant needs to be a business owner, or for nonprofits, a member of the board of directors with board appointed authority to submit the application, who has at least a 20% stake in the business. So this owner is going to be required to submit a photo ID. This owner cannot have received a Promise Act grant through any other source for any other business or nonprofit previously. And everything kind of has to line up. So you're going to have to submit a photo ID later on in this application for this contact person. That contact person should match the name of the owner on the Secretary of the State's website. If that's not the case, additional verification of the ownership of this business may be requested during the vetting process. So the name of this person, their job title, their contact email, confirming that contact email, their phone number, and then it's going to ask for the full legal name of the business or nonprofit. This should match what is registered with the Secretary of State. If you are a sole proprietor, that might just be your name again, right? If you don't have an assumed name registered, or DBA as we sometimes call it, that's going to be your legal name. It should match what is on your business tax returns, okay? If you have an operating name that is different from your legal name, which is very common with like LLCs, for example, then you can list that assumed name in question number 7. Question 8, the business address. So this is the physical location where the business is located. This is not necessarily your mailing address. This is where it's physically located. This needs to be located in the 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota, as we talked about before. It's also going to ask you in question 9, is this a home-based business? If your business is home-based, you are going to have tax form 8829 for the home office deduction included in your tax return, right? So being a home-based business, again, doesn't disqualify you as long as you have taken and been allowed that deduction. What year did the applying business first file business taxes? This is question number 10. So again, this is helping to identify those cases where a business was maybe established in 2022 or 2023 and is eligible for the Promise Act grant program, but will not get that scoring criteria. So again, what year did you first file business for the taxes? First file taxes for the business, rather. Number 11 is your federal employer identification number or your social security number in case of a sole proprietorship. We'll go through on the next slide exactly where to find this on your taxes so you make sure it's correct. Number 12 is your Minnesota business tax ID number. Again, we'll go through that together as well. So on your tax returns, different types of business organizations and nonprofits file different kinds of tax returns. So if you're a corporation, you're filing Form 1120, and that employer identification number is going to be line B. Form 990 for nonprofits, that employer identification number is going to be line D. For single member LLCs or sole proprietors, and this is a lot of the folks that are going to be applying to this program, you typically are filing a Schedule C as part of your personal tax return through pass-through income. So D would be your employer identification number. or your social security number. The instructions on your tax return tell you which one to use and what's appropriate. And lastly, Form 1065 for multi-member LLCs and partnerships. Line D is your employer identification number. So this is actual screenshots from the tax returns showing you where to look. The Minnesota tax ID number is your Minnesota business ID. That's located on your Minnesota tax returns for your business. Continuing on, question 13, is your business active in good standing with the Minnesota Secretary of State? There's a link in the application that you can open up in a new window to check your registration status, search the name of your business. All businesses are required to renew their registration with the Secretary of State. That was due December 31st. If you haven't done it, I recommend going in and making sure that your registration is up to date prior to submitting your application. If you are not registered with the Secretary of State, you can explain. And again, you're going to be under a little bit more scrutiny to verify the authenticity of your business before this application can be accepted and considered for scoring. Structure of your business. So this is a select one kind of situation. Are you a sole proprietorship LLC? Are you in a partnership, a corporation, nonprofit corporation would be a nonprofit, cooperative, tribal business, or other, please explain. So again, looking for that structure of the business. Number 15, select the NAICS code that best describes this business. So this is also on your taxes if you want to reference that. This is the type of industry that your business works in. Understanding that some businesses operate in more than one category, choose the one that has the majority of the business revenue. And hopefully, these are pretty broad categories. You'll be able to find the one that best fits your business. Question 16 is for nonprofit organizations only. So if you're a business, you can go ahead and skip question 16. If you're a nonprofit, you do need to answer this question to be considered. So this is going back to, again, what percentage of your revenue is from a business-like model. So ticket sales, membership dues, program revenue. It does not include contributions, gifts, grants, fundraising, investment income, or asset sales. You're typically going to find this on your 990 in the section called Program Service Revenue, which I have on this slide here as well for you to reference. Line G is going to be the total amount. So to find the percentage of your revenue that was collected in a method similar to a for-profit business, you're going to take line 2G, the total amount of program service revenue, and divide that by your total revenue for your nonprofit. That will give you the percentage, and then you can select which of the three categories your nonprofit falls into. You're then asked to describe these services or activities. So give a brief description, a couple of sentences, so that the Northland Foundation, when scoring your application, understands that you fit this eligibility criteria. Question 17 again is also just for nonprofits. Do you maintain that ongoing customer-facing operation at a permanent physical location where you're collecting some of that revenue? So again, are you meeting with customers? Do you have a permanent physical location where that's happening? Question 18 is for, again, all applicants. Is your business or nonprofit maintaining ongoing operations through 2026 as of the date of this application? To be eligible, your business needs to still be operational and intending to continue to operate as of the date of your application. Questions 19 through 22 are about your revenue numbers, your gross and net revenue numbers on your tax returns. We're going to go through in the next slide exactly where to find those, what line items, depending on the type of organization and type of tax form that you have. But 19 and 20 are looking for your 2021 tax return. Again, if your business was established in 2022 or later, this is the earliest year that you file taxes in that case. So that could be 2022 or 2023. Again, to score the highest in your application, your business needs to have been established in 2021. So 19 and 20, as I said before, are the gross annual revenue for the 2021 tax year. Questions 21 and 22 are then the gross and net revenue and income for your 2024 tax returns. So again, we're looking at these two numbers, and we'll go through together on the next slide exactly where to find those. So if you're a corporation, you filled out Form 1120, you're looking at line 1A are your gross receipts or sales. That's your gross revenue. For nonprofits, it's going to be line 12 for total revenue. If you filed a Schedule C, then it is Part 1, line 1 is going to be your gross receipts or sales. And for multi-member LLCs and partnerships, Form 1065, it's line 1A, your gross receipts or sales. So this is for questions 19 and 21, right? These are your gross revenue numbers. Next, let's look at net income. So this is your profit according to your tax returns. So again, corporations, you're looking for line 28, your taxable income before net operating loss deduction and special deductions. For nonprofits, Form 990, this is going to be line 19, your revenue less expenses. For single member LLCs and sole proprietors that file a Schedule C, this is line 31, net profit or loss. And Form 1065, you're looking for line 23, your ordinary business income or loss. So again, those are for questions 20 and 22 that are looking for your net revenue. In this application, you're asked to fill out then, how do you plan on spending the money? And I do want to stress, this isn't, we understand, the Northland Foundation understands that plans can change for a small business. But we have interest from our legislators to understand how businesses are using these funds to make their business more resilient and set themselves up for success in future years and to keep going, serving their communities. So in question 23, just above this question, there is a table to remind you, depending on your gross annual revenue in 2024, what your grant amount is, $10,000, $25,000, or $50,000. And then we're asking for your best guess estimate on how you plan to use those grant funds in each of the key areas like payroll, rent and mortgage, utilities, equipment, or other expenses like maybe inventory, repairs and maintenance, common topic, things like that. You can certainly round to the nearest dollar would be my recommendation. And the total of these different categories needs to total up to your potential grant amount. So say you're eligible for a $10,000 grant. Maybe $8,000 of that is payroll to yourself. That is fine. And $2,000 is for utilities. 8,000 plus 2,000 equals 10,000, the eligible grant amount. Again, this is to help the legislators that have approved this program understand how you're using these funds and how it will help your business. Which leads me to question 24. Please provide a brief description of how these funds will support the success of your business. So again, we're not looking for paragraphs, but just a couple of sentences to understand, how maybe this will relieve wages, allow you to buy a piece of equipment that will make your business more efficient. Maybe your utility bill has been going up unexpectedly, and this is going to help you get caught up and adjust to those expenses moving forward. So again, question 24, just a couple of sentences. Don't get too caught up in this, right? You're not getting judged on your grammar. We're just looking for a little narrative, a little bit of the story of how this is going to help your business out. Question 25, we're almost to the end. Has your business been adversely impacted by any of the following? And our assumption is that all businesses in our service area are going to be able to select one of these. Loss of population in your local community. Many of the communities in particularly rural northeastern Minnesota have been seeing population loss, which might be resulting in a reduction in sales over time for your business. Aging population in your local community, again, throughout all of northeastern Minnesota, might make it harder to find employees to do work because there are fewer people available in the labor pool. Lack of economic diversification in your local community might hurt you. Maybe you have a tourism-based business along the North Shore that has been impacted in the past year by a reduction in Canadian tourists, for example. So select whichever of these apply. We assume that at least one is going to be applicable. And then based on these selected factors from the above list, please provide a description of your barriers to growth and success for you. So again, just describing in one or two sentences, explaining, just like I talked about, we have an aging population in our community, and that makes it hard for me to find employees, and I have to pay higher wages. Or it has stopped my ability to grow my business as much as I want to. Looking at question 27, again, wanting to understand who are receiving these grants. This is not a scoring criteria. So if you do not meet any of these groups, that is okay. It does not affect your eligibility or how well you will score on this grant. So if at least 51% of your business, the majority of your business, is owned and operated by individuals in any of these groups, Black, Indigenous, or people of color, individuals who are veterans, individuals who are women, individuals with a disability, or if you have a multi-owner situation where maybe no single person in any of these groups has 51% or more, but together you do, that's what that last option there means. Or you can choose not applicable if you prefer. Again, this is a requirement from the state of Minnesota and how they deployed and designed this program. It does not affect your eligibility or your scoring. We're getting close to the end. We're in the document upload section. And so the first part is business owner identification. The person listed at the very front end of your application, that name needs to match the ID that is going to be uploaded to verify that person's identification. So the ID must be unexpired. It needs to be something like a driver's license or other photo ID issued by a federal, state, or tribal or local government entity. So your tribal ID would be something that would work. Out-of-state licenses are going to require additional documentation to confirm identity and confirm eligibility that this person owns and operates a business located in the 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota. And again, if this person's contact name doesn't match the owner on the Secretary of State website for the business filing, that there's going to be an additional level of verification required. So there's going to be a file for the front of the ID or the back and the back of the ID. You can use your phone to take a picture and upload a picture file. You can scan it and upload a PDF file. Either of those are going to work great to get your ID front and back uploaded. The next part is proof of operating business address. So this is very specific and a little different than round 1 if you had applied in that round as well. You need to upload either a property tax statement if you own the location, or if you rent your location, you need to upload a copy of your current lease agreement. So say you have a salon business and you rent a chair from, a local business, a local salon, and you operate as an independent contractor at that location, you need to have a lease agreement currently valid that shows that you're operating from that physical location. Okay. So again, this should match the physical address that you entered earlier in the application as well, making sure that everything checks out that you're located in northeastern Minnesota. The next part are your tax returns. For businesses established in 2021 or earlier, you're going to upload your 2021 business tax return. If you were established in 22 or later, then it's the earliest year that you filed taxes. You're also going to need to upload your 2023 tax return and your 2024 tax return. You need to have both of those to meet the eligibility, the scoring criteria for financial hardship. So if you didn't file taxes in 2023, for example, you are not going to be able to show that you meet the financial hardship criteria of a 10% reduction in gross revenue or any reduction in profitability, unless you have both of those tax returns in place. Again, it is based on the tax return. We cannot accept any other form of financial documentation to verify that scoring criteria. These are typically going to be PDF files that are multiple pages long. It does need to contain the entirety of your tax return, not just the first page. Again, if you're sole proprietor, it should be the entirety of your Schedule C that gets uploaded, along again with your home office deduction form, if that's eligible, if that's applicable to you. So again, you're going to upload these 3 sets of files. If you don't have a scanner easily available, if you might ask your tax preparer if they can provide you with an electronic copy of your tax returns. Certainly you could also use other resources like your local library that can help you scan these documents in a secure way. Or you can use your phone. There's lots of applications for phones and tablets available that let you create a PDF file from taking multiple photos from your phone and or tablet. So how to apply? We've gone through the entire application. That's all of the questions that you will be asked. The Northland Foundation's website for special grant opportunities is where you're going to find this section for Promise Act grants for businesses. If you click that blue little plus button on the website, it'll get you more information, like a full version of the application, the link to fill out the survey that we just went through together with all the application questions. There's an info document as well as a link to technical assistance. You can find frequently asked questions as well as a recording of this webinar on the Northland SBDC Promise Act page. And this is also where you can request technical assistance. So if you watched this webinar and you want to verify, that you've entered in the right numbers from your taxes, or you have another question, we do have several technical assistance providers throughout northeastern Minnesota that can meet with you and help you through your application upon request. There is a form that you have to fill out on the Northland SBDC website to receive that. There's going to be a button that says request technical assistance, right, on this Promise Act grant program page. Requesting TA is something that I encourage you to do early. It can take around a week to schedule a time to meet with one of the TA providers. So please don't wait till the very end of the application. We want to make sure that we can have time to meet with you and help you out as you apply your application if you need it. And that's it for today. That is the Promise Act grant program for